economic empowerment boosts productivity, increases economic diversification and income equality, in addition to other positive development outcomes for any nation. Islamic finance, amongst other objectives, takes seriously creating economic opportunities for women. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Islamic Finance Weekly. On today's program, we'll be discussing the role of Islamic financial institutions in women entrepreneurship. With me to lead this conversation is a development consultant, communication specialist, and women's rights advocate. She's also a member of the board of the Khadija Initiative in the United Kingdom, Mrs. Iram Zaidi. Good afternoon, Mrs. Iram, and it's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you, Bukola. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
You're welcome.
Likewise.
It is a known fact that investing in women can provide a great stimulus to economic growth. How will you describe the role of women in driving entrepreneurship and contributing to the economic development?
So, women have a critical role to play when it comes to, empowering not just the country, but like the entire world. I mean, if you look at, the increasingly critical role that women's entrepreneurship is playing, not just in India, where I'm speaking from, but in the rest of the world, we will have to be cognizant of the fact that this is an issue which governments, policymakers worldwide have to give attention to. So I'm just going to in terms of how women's entrepreneurship can contribute. See, when a woman economically empowers herself, she in turn empowers the family that she's a part of, which in turn empowers the community, and which in turn empowers the nation. You're looking at like a systemic empowerment at every level, at every stage, which contributes to the entire nation's growth and empowerment on the whole. When we talk of women's empowerment, we look at it as a means of alleviating poverty, reducing the poverty, especially in the developing countries. We look at it as a way of making it equitable, the distribution of wealth and resources between men and women. So women's entrepreneurship, women's economic growth has a huge role to play when we talk of the development agenda, especially now, in the context of the current pandemic, the COVID situation. We'll really have to relook at the development agenda for global nations. Women's empowerment, women's entrepreneurship as an avenue to women's economic and the nation's economic empowerment will have to be a part of the development agenda moving forward.
All right, Mrs. Iram, thank you for the explanation. You are the board of advisors to the Khadija Initiative. Tell us about it and how is it different from other female entrepreneur platforms or networks?
Right. So the Khadija Initiative was actually founded last year with an aim to boost, women's entrepreneurial growth, to boost the innovation, to help spur economic growth among women. And it actually targets 1001 women entrepreneurs across the globe. The idea is that it's a project or an initiative which is going to handhold these women, help them launch their products, their innovative products and services. And it's going to provide a platform to them where they will have access to not just capital, but they'll have access to world-class mentorship opportunities, world-class networking opportunities. They're going to access peer-to-peer learning. They will actually avail of, again, top-notch capacity development facilities. There are plans to provide technical training to them in partnership with institutions in the UK and worldwide. So overall, the idea is to boost women's entrepreneurship on a global level. And the reason I would, as a board of advisors of the initiative, say that it is unique is because it is the first of its kind of like this global, cross-cultural, a pan-religious platform, which is offering this unique opportunity to women entrepreneurs anywhere. It could be India, it could be Africa, it could be South Africa, it could be UK. This woman, 18 and above, could be sitting anywhere in the world, and if she has this innovative idea which she wants to take forward, she can reach out on this platform. There's a website, they can fill in the application. Then there's of course the processes of shortlisting. Then they have to produce like a 6-minute video to pitch to the committee. And moving on, the 1 year then is going to be broken down into series of mentorship opportunities, learning opportunities, networking opportunities. So we are really looking at it as like a holistic, if I may say, initiative, where we're literally going to take the women from like early stage to, well, I won't say advanced stage, but early stage, and hopefully help her not just launch the idea, but help her scale it and provide her enough capacities and competencies where she can not just scale, but also in the long run, inshallah, be able to sustain her business. Because, as we know, there so many, there are, as per there's a global entrepreneurship monitor report of 2018 and 19, and I would like to really share the data. It says that there are actually 153 million women entrepreneurs around the world. 153 million. And in developing countries, you have 8 to 10 million small and medium businesses of, one of the owners is a female. So women entrepreneurship is really developing, but we all know that as much as women are able to start a business, somewhere down between trying to scale it and trying to sustain it and taking it in the long term, they are not able to, they fail, and this is the problem, which I would say that, this is a problem, and we kind of conceptualize the Khatija initiative as a holistic solution, where we are not just looking at access to capital, we are looking at providing them, building the capacities to an extent where, inshallah, they can run with that idea, they can try to, grow it, they can try to sustain it.
I commend the efforts of Khadija's initiative organization, and I believe this will also help the African women, not only in the United Kingdom or in India.
Absolutely. And one more thing, Bukola, I would like to add is that this is a platform which is for women, and it is being run by women. That's another thing when you talk about its uniqueness. What is it? It's a platform for women, run by women. And in this thing, it has a very universal appeal. It's not limited to a country, a race, a caste, or ethnic community. And I think this is the way we have to go forward as the world. Where everything has to be global, everything has to be accessible to everyone and anyone sitting, whether in urban cities or in the village, as long as they have access to mobile or digital, services, of course. Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Iram, for insight. From your assessment as a communication specialist and women's rights advocate, what are the challenges women face in the area of gender inclusion?
So, this is a very, very pertinent question because so far women entrepreneurs, the reason they are not at the same level as male entrepreneurs is because they have been held back by institutional and systemic challenges. So, again, 1 out of 3 businesses in the world are owned by women. Yet, it is men who are more likely to borrow or to save money to start, expand, or establish a business. And women as a whole, they face a lot of challenges when it comes to accessing financial capital, human capital, and social capital. Now, I'm going to break this up for the viewers who are listening on to understand. So, of course, when we say financial capital, it's very straightforward. you will, even if you have friends, Bukola, who started a business, you will see that most of them, they're going to dip into their own savings, or they'll take loans from their friends, or they look at microfinance. Whenever they start a business, you'll find very few of them actually going to the bank and taking a loan from a formal institution. Usually they'll end up bootstrapping their own ventures. Women face 1.5 trillion when it comes to financing deficit when they're starting a business. So just imagine the gender gap right there, right? The other challenge, so one is financial capital, that women do not have access to start. They do not have access to grow and scale their businesses, right? Then you also have many other social and cultural reasons, which also pose as challenges. One are the patriarchal gender norms. Now, a lot of us, most of us women, we are socialized into growing up and believing that we can't do certain things. We kind of are more trained to harbor self-doubt and be risk-averse when it comes to men. And there's evidence-based research in the public domain to prove that. And this basically, what happens is then it disables women from developing what are called the critical skills to run a business. So when a lot of times you'll hear, oh, women lack, they don't have that risk-taking ability, they lack the critical skills. Somewhere down there is a hint of truth in that, because this all relates back to the way we were raised as women, right? And again, when you talk of gender norms, I'm also going to say that in many countries, especially in developing countries, a lot of the legal inheritance and family laws, they do not actually enable the woman to, let's say she wants to take a loan against a collateral. But in many countries, women do not have that access to, like they have the right to the house, or they have the right to their maternal or like the marital house, because the laws and the inheritance laws, the family laws, unfortunately are still very gender biased. They're very gender biased against women, right? Then you're also looking at illiteracy as a factor in many developing countries, because of which keeps women away from starting the business, right? Another very big factor, and this is a social factor, is the motivation. Now, I have so many friends who've started businesses, but a lot of them started businesses out of necessity or the desire to balance work and home. Now, when I look at my male friends who've started a business, done a startup, for them, the whole idea was, they were very excited about launching a new product, launching a service, versus my women friends who were like, look, I can't do a 9 to 5 because I have kids. So I may as well do something from home where I can balance kids and I can generate an income. So you're looking at very different motivations of men and women, which again inform the way the entrepreneurial journey of a woman goes, right? It's kind of a setback in a way. Information, also access to ICT, information communication technologies. Again, it's very well known that more men, more boys have more access to, whether it comes to education, whether it comes to information, whether it comes to the new age communication technologies than women. Again, how do we trace it back to patriarchal? We trace it back to societies where gender roles, gender biases still exist. And that includes all of us, even India, as much as we're breaking away from patriarchy, we are still entrenched in a very, very gender-defined society. So a lot of these are basically challenges, these are the institutional challenges. Like I said, bank comes under an institutional challenge.
Yeah.
About
the challenges facing women entrepreneurship. We talk about the financing deficit, the illiteracy, among others. What must be done to unlock economic opportunities for them?
I think if you look at banks, banks can start by making the interest rates lower when they're giving loans to women startups, when they're giving loans to women business owners. Please give lower, interest rates. Make the loans process simplified. Make it easier, because a lot of times the loans and all these processes are so difficult to look at. They look so tedious that it prevents many women from approaching a bank, to even take a loan, because the processes have been made very complex. So let's simplify. banks can come up with more innovative banking solutions which are specially tailored to the needs of women, especially tailored to the needs of women owners, right? So that's at a banking level. At a systemic level, we really need, it has to be a collaborative effort between the community, the government, the NGOs, the media. Everybody needs to work at basically changing the gender lens, changing the norms because of which these challenges and barriers exist in the first place. Like I'll give you an example. A lot of the money sometimes for startups comes from venture capitalists, right? It comes from impact investors. Now, a lot of these are very male-dominated fields. They're very male-dominated clubs, and many times women are excluded from these clubs. So another way of you saying how to do is that make venture capitalist clubs and angel investor networks, again, open them up to women. Have more women on the board of these networks, so that next time a woman business owner is pitching her idea to a angel investor board, she doesn't see 10 men. She sees 5 women and she sees 5 men. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? So they're systemic things to be done. There are things to be done at a structural, institutional level, which only the banks and the government and the policy makers can do. But as normal citizens like you and me, we have to try breaking this gender barrier right at home. It's about schooling children, it's as mothers, as the gender gap needs everybody's effort.
Creating opportunities for women is very important. To boost economic development. Thank you very much, Mrs. Iram, for that perspective. Most African working women are in the formal sector and are self-employed, contributing to a family business. What should be done at the policy level to spur women's entrepreneurial growth in Africa?
Right. See, I already mentioned about how the banks can, what they can do to spur women's entrepreneurship, to spur women's growth, in terms of making financial services more accessible to women, providing women-only loan-specific guarantees, right? Now, if we look at the policy makers, if I think of what the government in Africa can do, right, in Uganda and Nigeria can do, there are many ways. They can start at they can look at developing the capacity. So invest in coaching, invest in mentoring, invest in training, developing the capacities of women. Encourage more and more women and girls to go and pursue what we in India call STEM: science, technology, engineering, maths. And this is what the government can do. They can set aside certain seats in schools and colleges which are only allotted and reserved for women, so that more women go into science and technology. There's a huge technology gap in the technology sector. There's a huge gender gap. There are more men, there are less women. So how do we close that? Then when it comes to other ideas, one way is to promote the good work of women entrepreneurs. I'm sure there must be some very successful women entrepreneurs in Uganda and Nigeria. Promote them as like a pioneer for other young girls and women, so that they get inspired, right? Another thing that the policymakers can do is that, for example, the Khatija initiative. What are we? We are an incubator for women entrepreneurs, right? So if the government can establish women-only incubators, not mainstream incubators. Now, mainstream incubators means both men and women entrepreneurs will get,
Can that work in a country like Nigeria? The women incubator you talk about, can it work in Nigeria?
Can it work? Well, the point is that it needs to be done so that women's entrepreneurship can flourish in Nigeria, right? And what the government has to do is nothing. It's just an incubator which looks holistically at the needs of women business owners only, which is only for women, which caters to them exclusively. So there is a great need for exclusive women products to be launched, whether it is at the banking level, whether it is at the incubator level, whether it is at the training level. We cannot just do everything mainstream, because women have been neglected. They have faced a lot of generic and systemic challenges, and if we need to tackle those, we have to only look at women, understand the needs, and launch or develop products or services. So whether it is government, whether it is banks, whether it is policymakers, simplify the tax procedures. So to the government, one thing the government in Uganda can do, make the tax policies, the labor policies, just simplify them, so that it's not something that we women can't understand, it's too complicated for us. That should not happen. Now I'm going to come to another point, because when you say Nigeria and Uganda and the little, to my knowledge, there is a huge section of the female population in Africa which is underbanked or unbanked, which means they don't have access to banking services. So now this actually brings us back to a starting point, because the points that I've mentioned may probably be more applicable to a country where more women have access to banking services. So in this case, there is a need to make banking services, to start with, more accessible to women. Now, how do we do that? We can do that in many ways. We can make provision of mobile banking, provide more mobiles, provide more internet usage at the village level, at the district level, not just at the urban level. Break the women's digital barriers. See, digital banking is the way to go now. But digital banking you can only access if you have a laptop or a mobile. Now, if a woman sitting in a village doesn't have a mobile, so all the stock of mobile and digital banking is useless. So again, I said, if we come straight right down to where we need to start at for a country like Africa.
There is need for financial literacy.
Exactly. So we are looking at firstly providing them financial literacy education. Maybe they could do economic advocacy campaigns. The government can do financial literacy campaigns, do community mobilization, go out into the community, do these campaigns to educate women on banking skills, financial literacy skills, right? Digital skills. So introduce them first to banking, right? Before we come to how can we make banking easy, how can we promote women's entrepreneurship. So as I said, we have to come really right at the grassroots and start the process of making financial services more inclusive.
That was very insightful. Let's talk about the role of Islamic finance for women. In 2021, what should be the focus of Islamic finance institutions, banks, and insurance companies as it concerns women entrepreneurship?
Right. So I think whether I'm talking of banks in general, generic banks, or I'm talking of Islamic banks, a lot of the measures which are needed to support women's entrepreneurship will be the same, will be common, right? So let's say that whether it is creating more innovative financial solutions, whether it is creating like a holistic package which is especially tailored for women business owners, whether it is, which I've mentioned before, offering lower interest rates for loans, whether it is making the loan procedures easy to understand, whether it is providing technical assistance and practical solutions to women who come to you for banking. These are some of the generic measures which could be taken. Now, if you're looking at especially Islamic finance banking. So I was just reading up, very interesting, that in Saudi and I think in Malaysia, they have started a practice of establishing women-only banks. And what they've done is that in these banks, they have tied them up with add-on services. So if a woman comes to the bank, she also has access to some kind of a healthcare provider. She also has access to some kind of a social support system. She also has a creche where she can leave her baby while she's doing banking. And I just thought this is such a innovative idea, right? Because it has already been launched in Saudi Arabia and Malaysia, where these are special banking services which are being created just exclusively for women, and they're providing these add-on services. So to increase the footfall of women, because a woman, maybe she doesn't want to go to a bank where there are men and where it's very crowded, and she's like, oh, this is this exclusive women's space. And here, as I do my banking, I can also look at my healthcare need. I can also leave my little babies in the creche, So I think innovative ideas like this could be implemented in Africa. I mean, this is just a thought. And I think overall, as I said, what we're looking at is creating this ecosystem where it's not just access to capital, making women's access to capital easy, making women's access to risk capital easy, but it is also combining that with providing her with the adequate information, with the adequate technical assistance, with the adequate mentoring. I mean, you can have advisors at the bank, especially for women-owned business owners or entrepreneurs. They can have mentoring services which are offered maybe for free, just as a like honorary service for women-owned SMEs who are members of the bank. You have a mentoring advisor on board, and these add-on services will really go a long way to encouraging women to go to the bank, because she's like, okay, the interest rates are low, or this loan process is very simple. I have these friendly, over-the-counter officers who are also ready to mentor me. If I need technical assistance, there's someone. And in some areas, I mean, if it really helps, have a women-only cell, have a women-only entrepreneurship cell, to like an advisory board right at the bank, where a woman can always access that, like it's an add-on service. So a little something extra special needs to be done at a generic level, but vis-a-vis Islamic finance and Islamic banking, as I said, that a lot of these practices which have already been launched in other countries can also be followed to provide that extra bit.
Mrs. Iram, exploring opportunities for women is very vital and it boosts the economy.
Right.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Iram, for talking to us on the Islamic Finance. Have a pleasure.
Thanks. Thank you.
From analysis, in 40% of the economies in the globe, women's early-stage entrepreneurial activity is half or less than half of that of men's, while 65% of men report having an account at a formal financial institution. Only 58% of women do worldwide. The outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, according to Oxfam, has widened the economic inequality across the globe. Islamic financial institutions in this period should step up their game and support women entrepreneurship through tailor-made products for women and invest more in women-led or women-run enterprises, financial service providers, and even fintechs. This will help to bridge the economic gap that is adversely affecting women and open new opportunities for them to create wealth and support national development. And that will be all for this edition of the Islamic Finance Weekly. Log on to www.tailor-made.com to watch more videos and read more news on Islamic finance. You can as well follow us on our social media platform displaying on the screen. For questions and comments, send a mail to bukola.akinyele@tailor-made.com. Many thanks for watching. Please stay safe and see you next edition.